Okay, so what is good, everyone? Welcome back. I'm NLG, and today we're going to do a video about how to get the maximum amount of damage in Nax as Affliction. This video is going to focus more so on single target boss damage than anything, but I'm still going to incorporate good pre-pot usage, good trash damage, good overall, just so you can get a good overall damage. I do think that Demonology will beat out Affliction for overall, specifically because of Metamorphosis resetting after every single boss in there. You know, there's 15 bosses and whatnot. But this video is actually a request from a viewer. It's like a consulting paid video. So this is shout out to Sam. Thanks a lot for the support. But yeah, I wanted to upload it anyway just because I think that you guys can get a lot of use out of it. I think that even if you don't watch the entire thing, there's still specific bosses that you're going to want to refer back to. And I am still going to do a more in-depth breakdown of specifically Thaddius, and I think 4 Horsemen I can get done before Nax releases. Some bosses, realistically, though, in Nax are just, you know, they're kind of just easy as shit. It's literally just your single target rotation. But yeah, this should be a good video for people. Okay, so some things to note before we get into it. I'm aware that not everybody starts a Patchwerk. I'm aware that you guys might go to a different boss first. The best places to use your Infernal for damage, again, we're talking total damage in the raid, is going to be Grand Widow, which is the second boss, and Spider, and then 4 Horsemen. For those 2 fights, I would definitely make sure that you have Infernal for those fights. But people wipe at different times. Infernal's a 10-minute cooldown, all sorts of stuff like that. So I can't really just assume that you won't have Infernal on every single boss. So I'm just going to say that if your Infernal is up, you're going to use it in Execute, and I'm going to give you a good time to use it on that fight, just based on beta footage. But yeah, let's get started. Oops. So this is Patchwerk Trash. Okay, so right here, before you get into combat, you're going to want to use Pre-Pot Haste, and then you will have time to have PI and Blood Fury later, so just use PI and Blood Fury here. As you're moving closer to the targets, you can be corruptioning other stuff until they have everything grouped up, and then you can continue seeding. Okay, so just make sure that you just seed all through this. Those mobs stun, so make sure you're not too close, and make sure you don't get stunned there. And then I would throw my engineering bomb in there as well. Okay, so you're moving. I wouldn't rocket boot here. I don't think it's necessary. You can see those packs on the right until the slimes start coming out. Once the slimes start coming out, you see where all the casters are over on this right side. I would position yourself there for the slimes so that you're also not getting stunned by these Patchwerk guys. But there's just more slimes, so I would just seed the slimes. Okay, so this is coming up on the second trash pack. Time is 3:05:45. Yep. So if you got PI at the pole, it'll be up here again, and this is a much bigger pole. So I would corruption that first target, and then I would just start seeding this left pack, and then as everything comes in, you can also pre-shadow ward because he might mind flay you, the little trash pack adds. But definitely prioritize seeding on the Patchwerk guys just because they have more health. You should have also pre-potted before this pull. Another thing, the reason you're pre-potting is because otherwise you're going to have to wait until you get out of combat for your pot timer to reset, and you don't want that. You might fuck yourself for the boss. Okay, so you're just seeding, life tapping between packs. Last few ads are here. You can have your pet kill that little totem. Once there's few mobs like this, that's when I use my Searing Pains. And I, you know, move to the next pack. Make sure you get a lot of seeds off here too. These mobs have very low health, so I would definitely make sure you're seeding. And you see how this guy uses Infernal? I would not do that here. Okay, so they're about to pull. Okay, so they actually wipe, so I'll just skip to the actual kill. You should be able to pre-pot here because you just potted on Trash, but you were out of combat. You should be pre-potting Wild Magic here. Make sure you get that first corruption. Make sure you get all your crit buffs and whatnot. Usually you do Lust on the pulse, so you should also Blood Fury at this point. Let's go ahead and skip all of this, though. You don't need to see everything. This is literally just single target rotation. You've seen tons of my Patchwerk videos, so just make sure you're close enough for your tricks on this fight, and then maintain your or watch your threat, because you can pull threat pretty easily here. Make sure you're throwing engineering bombs. We're approaching 35%. Okay, so for Patchwerk, you're going to be Infernal at 35%, which would be now. So you get your Infernal out. Make sure you're snapshotting your Flame Cap with it. Make sure you have adequate mana because you're coming up on your Execute, your 25% Execute. Okay, hits 25%. The percentages are here, by the way. So as soon as it hits 25%, that's when you Blood Fury again. And then you would get your PI, your Haste Pot, all that stuff. And then you're just maintaining dots. Again, in Execute, make sure that your dots are going to go their full duration. Don't be using UA with 2 seconds left. But obviously, don't lose Haunt. Okay, so boss is about to die. Life tap should have fallen off. UA should have probably fallen off. Same for Agony. Okay, and then just before the boss dies, you Shadow Flame. And now you're running. Okay, so next boss coming up is Grobbulus. Your boot should be up. I would go ahead and boot. Rocket boot here. I would just rocket boot all the way down there. You don't need the tank to pull this trash. I would just start. I would put full dots. So there's going to be 2 mobs on your left. I would just full dot the left one, and then the furthest one, I would just put UA Corruption. Once everything else is grouped up, then you can just seed those off targets. Also, your PI, your Blood Fury, is still going to be on cooldown because you were just used in Execute on Patchwerk. Also, another thing after Patchwerk, you're going to want to resummon your pet. But yeah, I would just seed these. I would seed these back ones, and then you would have full dots on those front two. Okay, once everything's like this, so you need to be seeding. Also, your potion is going to be on cooldown too, so you cannot pre-pot this trash pull. Okay, at this point, I would make sure that your pet has like pet buffs. I'd make sure he has his food buff, because that might be a classic thing. Looks like... yeah, so this isn't ideal. Ideally, the boss is coming down to you already. If that's the case, then your pre-pot should be fine. You may even pull this trash with the boss. So the way this boss works is he's going to put a debuff on people randomly. I'm guessing this could be the meta of how you kite it. So I would just have... I'd have my demonic portal where all the casters are. If you get the debuff, you just rocket boot. Well, your rocket boot would be on cooldown, but I would just get out decently far and then just port back to your spot after the debuff's gone. These little slimes that are spawning, they are dying slow enough to where you can put UA and corruption on them, so I would do that. I wouldn't put a Curse of Agony. I wouldn't put Curse of Elements, though. The Unholy's going to do that. For Grobbulus, you're going to pre-pot Wild Magic, and then you get your tricks at the beginning. Very fast fight, though, and your Infernal is going to be on cooldown. Yeah, this slime definitely put UA Corruption. You shouldn't have to refresh the Corruption, though. So after you put that up, just go back to attacking the boss. Okay, so we're approaching 35%. Your second trick should be up here. If you were to Infernal, like let's say you wiped on Patchwerk, you can Infernal at 40% on this boss. And then your second pot's going to be soon. Second pot with Haste Pot, and then PI and Blood Fury here. Because I don't think you would have Blood Fury for the pull. Oh, you need to see my boss. There you go. Okay. Yeah, nothing too special about this boss. You do have to get out of the raid if you get that debuff, though. And then just make sure you have your Demonic Portal. Make sure you're pre-potting Wild Magic. Make sure you're dotting these little ads. Okay. Okay, so we're approaching Gluth now. Gluth. You're going to be pre-potting with Wild Magic. Let's see how long they tank. Your pre-pot might not be up. Yeah, if your pre-pot's not up, you're not. Don't potion until 25%. Because I think you could go much faster here. But if your pre-pot's up, you would pre-pot right at this ledge coming up. Right before you jump. So right now. Okay, I would get a Shadow Bolt there. And then I would get my tricks. And then I would have my Wild Magic going. So I'd make sure my Corruption was good there. And then you can Rocket Boot once Gluth goes out of range. Again, you're not going to Lust on the pull here, so I would ask for a PI at the beginning. I wouldn't Blood Fury yet, though. I'd wait to Blood Fury after you Lust, so like right now. Okay, so you're wanting... This doesn't show it very well, but this back left, you're going to want to... You're going to want to position yourself like back here so that you can still Corruption the zombies in the back. You don't want to be tanking the zombies, though. The zombies will interrupt your cast. This is a super fast fight, though, so... you're not even going to have a decimation phase, so I wouldn't be seeding back there unless you just want to purely pad for overall damage. Okay, you're approaching 35. I don't think your Infernal's going to be up, but if it is, you're going to use it at 40. And then for 35, you would reapply tricks. So I would say around 40%, you're going to move a little closer to the boss just so you can get your tricks. And then just go a little further back so you can keep 2 corruptions up on zombies. And then for your second pot, you're going to use Haste Pot here in Drain Soul. And your PI might be available again, depending on how fast you kill it. If your PI is available at any point in execute, just use it. Okay, so they kill here before Decimate. And I'm pretty sure they're in pre-raid Bisque here, so the boss should die around that same speed. Okay, so as you come into Thaddius room, ideally you don't pull everything. Usually you can just only pull this mob, but if you're speedrunning, you're probably just going to pull whatever's in front of you. Just do normal rotation on this big guy. He knocks you back. I wouldn't get anywhere near this guy. And make sure that if you get knocked back, you're not getting knocked back into ads like they do in the video. Yeah, because they eventually turn around, right? Yeah. So they pulled a bunch of shit here. This usually doesn't happen. If this happens, just seed these. Okay. Kill all that shit real quick. Make sure you know what side you're going to. For this little mini boss, you're going to be pre-potting Haste. And then just make sure you should be able to get 2 tricks here. Let's go ahead and speed through this. Okay, so you pre-potted haste. I would not Blood Fury on this guy. I would just Blood Fury during Thaddius pull. And then you can also get you can get PI here. Okay. So the second tricks should come at 35% on this guy. That's it. Only if you get the second tricks, that's the only time you're going to use the second corruption. Okay, so 35 hits here. Don't infernal this. Don't do anything. Just kill it like normal. Don't use your second pot. Oh, this is the part where they take fucking forever. Hang on. So yeah, ideally it dies right there. That's you only need PI for the execute, so. Okay, so this little intermission, this is when I set up my demonic portal, just like those two did. Okay, once he's attackable, do your normal rotation. Make sure you get your bolt up. Make sure you get all your dots and stuff. Okay, again, you're not going to Blood Fury here. Not yet. Okay, so you see this little icon? Each stack of this, so he has 11 stacks, so that's 55% damage that your corruption will snapshot in combination with tricks. So you have to be mindful of these little stacks and the boss's health. Ideally, your rogue tricks you here, and then it's essentially 55% damage increase on your corruption that's going to snapshot, and then it's also the 15 from tricks. And then you also Blood Fury with that Lust at the very as soon as you got your polarity. Another thing to note is that if you have to, like, whenever he casts his thing, his what is it, polarity shift, you lose your debuff for a little bit. You lose your 12% damage increase. So between the polarity shifts is when I like to use my life taps. This is a super long fight. You might even be able to get 3 PIs here. What's the timing? 323 all the way to 330. Yeah, you should be able to get 3 PIs. So your priest should PI you on the mini boss. He should PI you somewhere around now. It should be up. And then he should PI you at 25% as well. And again, with your demonic teleport, you're just teleporting back and forth, depending on if you get the correct debuff or not. Okay, so for Thaddius, he has a ton of health, so you're not going to Infernal early on this fight. Okay, so you see he lost his stacks. And then they come back again. Oh, come on. Why is this fucking lagging? Okay, we're good. Okay, so you're approaching 35%. Again, 35% is an 11% or 12% corruption increase. So you would need more stacks of the polarity. You would need another tricks. And then you would also need sub 35%. Okay, you should have Infernaled at 28%. The boss is at 22 right now. So at this point, your PI should have gone off at 25. You should have used Haste Plot at 25. Blood Fury at 25. I would Blood Fury, like I said, I would use it as soon as you get your polarity at the beginning of the fight, and then I would use it for execute for the second one. Okay. Alright, so they kill it. Let's skip it. Okay, so this is Anub'rekhan Trash. This is Spider Quarter. I wouldn't pre-pot here. I would literally just seed, and then if you can't get a seed off because those little spiders are dying too fast, use Hellfire or Shadow Flame to finish them off. So yeah, don't pre-pot that. There's not enough time. There's no way. Maybe if someone dies and there's a little excess time, but nah, I wouldn't pre-pot that. Not that trash pack. Okay, so we're coming up to Anub'rekhan. Oops. Okay, so we're at a nub. I would not Infernal this boss. I would just make sure that you have Infernal for Grand Widow. I wouldn't Infernal here. It's not worth it, really. And you can even watch, like, later in the fight, the Infernals aren't even, like, so they have Immolation Aura. There's no way the Immolation Aura is even hitting these Crypt Guards. But yeah, you're just spamming Seed here. You're pre-potting Haste. You get Lust on the pull. I wouldn't worry about snapshotting your Corruption on this fight. I would literally just spam Seed on everything. Once one of the Crypt Guards dies, you can put a just full dots on a nub, and I wouldn't even Corruption that remaining Crypt Guard because it's probably going to be really low. And then before this fight starts, you can have your Demonic Portal. Depending on where your tank's going to kite, I would have it off to the side where nobody else is standing so you don't get knocked up like that. But this is a mega fast fight, so no Infernal here, but just make sure you get that second Tricks at 35. And then for 25%, you're going to use your second Haste Pot. Okay. For those little spiders that just spawned, I'd be ready for them. And I would go ahead and seed those. Okay, so that fight was a minute 20. Yeah, your second Haste Pot might be a little late, but that should be fine. Just make sure you get those last few seeds on those little corpse scarabs or whatever they're called. Okay, so for this trash, you're not going to be able to pre-pot this. I would just Corruption while you're moving to them. And then once you know that you can cast a seed and they're not just going to get pulled away from you, to start seeding. But Corruption on off targets is going to give you Eradication, which is going to help your seed. Okay, so they're making way through. You can Rocket Boot at this point. I would definitely Rocket Boot to keep up with everybody and make sure you're getting enough seeds on every mob. I would use, once these two mobs die, I would use Shadow Ward. I'd go ahead and use it now because this next pack is a shit ton of Shadow Bolt volleys potentially, and it might save you. So yeah, Shadow Ward here, kill those little scarabs, and then just spam seed right here. I wouldn't Infernal this. I would just save it for the boss. I know it's a lot of mobs and shit, but I would just save it for the boss. If you're going for overall as demo, you could Infernal there even, but okay, so for this boss, I would open Infernal. As soon as all these mobs are together, I would just open Infernal with Flame Cap. If you notice, some of these mobs are too far, like that square on the far left. You can throw Corruption on those. Nobody's going to dispel it, so it's just free damage for you. But yeah, while all these mobs are still up, I would just be spamming seed on all the different mobs. When there are 2 or less, that's when I would stop seeding. Okay. Like right here would be a ton of damage with your seed. Your Infernal should last a while. Yeah, it should still be up all the way to 35. This little Rain of Fire, I wouldn't even move out of it. I would just make your healers heal you. Okay. And then you're not resummoning your pet. Make sure you get that Tricks at 35. And then your second pot is going to be Potion of Speed. Your first pot is also Potion of Speed for Grand Widow. Again, don't move out of that Ring of Fire. Just make them heal you through it. Okay. Yeah, you're just draining at this point with your full dots. Okay. So now we're going to Maexxna. He's got pack up. I would just be life tapping at this point. Just make sure you're full mana. Since you Infernaled, I would stay back a little bit and summon your Fell Hunter right now. After that boss dies, and then make sure you're here for more seeding. Can corruption that first two if it gets pulled like that, and then just seed these back ones. Okay. No trash here, you're just moving. Life tapping. Get a lot of seeds on this. You should be able to get a couple. Okay, 2 targets. I would just corruption this one. I would corruption each one and just keep moving. I'd probably agony. Whenever they charge back, you can probably get unstable affliction on them. But if all those skitterers come by, you need to be seeding that. Come on now, don't lag on me. Okay, so they're just moving. Your dots are just ticking. You should have your Fell Hunter out. Make sure you have your pet at this point. Okay, seed this. Put full dots on both those shades if you pull both of them. Once they're grouped up, though, you should be seeding the spinners. Yeah, they're called spinners. Just start seeding all that. You could have incorporated your potion at the very start of this, but I wouldn't use the second potion there. It's too risky because you might just stay in combat and get fucked for the boss. Okay, so you're pre-potting Wild Magic here from Maexxna. What I usually do, I rocket boot to the middle while I apply my corruption and my agony. Rocket boot to wherever he puts Maexxna, and then just put my demonic portal down there. And then you're gonna want to stay directly under the boss though for whenever these little ads spawn. Okay, spiderlings should be soon. They die super quick, so you have to be like perfect with shadow flame sniping there. You're definitely not gonna get to seed or rainify them or anything. Just shadow flame. Just shadow flame. One thing before this stun goes out, I like to make sure that if let's say that my unstable affliction is gonna have 2 seconds left or something like that, I just recast it early. That's like the only time I would clip my UA there. And then make sure you haunt too. Okay, so Maexxna's at 35. You get your second tricks. 25, you're using your haste pot. That's another thing. Don't haste pot before the stun goes out. Just do it after a stun. So I would actually haste pot PI at this point. Okay. Anything else? Oh yeah, the reason you put your demonic portal in the middle is because if you get web wrapped, you'll get knocked into Africa. Just gives you something to port back with. Okay, so the next quarter they go to is Razuvious quarter. I can't remember the name of it. You'll definitely be able to... You cannot pre-pot this one, but you'll definitely be able to pre-pot some kind of trash in here. Probably not here. You would just be seeding right here. I think you want Shadow Ward as well. Man, look at that demonology damage. That is wild. Okay, so he's just pulling everything. You might have got... The biggest thing about pre-potting here is just getting out of combat. If you were able to get out of combat after after that pack died, you can pre-pot there. Just throwing out seeds. Okay, you can definitely do it before this one then. Say you would pre-pot this one with haste. Just throw out a ton of seeds, as many seeds as you can get. Prioritize a high health target so you can don't have to target swap that much. I would corruption all 3 of those as he's moving into more mobs, and then I would just start seeding the other targets. Yeah, just seed the shit out of this. Seed, seed, seed. Okay, so as we're doing trash, I'll start talking about Razuvious. Razuvious is going to completely depend on how your raid kills it. If the tank is tanking the 2 mobs with the boss, the 2 extra adds, he may even do all 4. If he's doing that, then you're going to open with Flame Cap, Infernal, Blood Fury, and pre-potting Haste. And you're just going to seed spam. I think it's possible to do that method, but most likely what tanks usually do is they'll tank 1 ad off, or 2 ads off to the side. And then you're going to mind control 2 ads, so those won't be targetable for you. So if that's the case, if it's typical strategy, then you would open with Wild Magic on Razuvious, and then as the tank is pulling the mobs away, you can move with them and use Corruption on the 2 ads. But in this video, they tank 2 ads with the boss. So if your group ends up doing it like this strategy, let me skip to it so you can see. If your group ends up doing this, I would open with Infernal and Speed Pot and Flame Cap and Blood Fury and all that stuff, because you're going to get a ton of damage with your Infernal here. And Razuvious doesn't have much health, so it doesn't matter if you Infernal at the beginning. It's just worth it for the Immolation Aura. Okay, so you're seeding till these 2 understudies die. Okay, at this point you stop seeding, and then you just do full single target rotation on the boss. Again, your Infernal's probably going to die before the fight ends, but it was still worth it because of all that Immolation Aura damage. Another thing, whenever the priests drop their mind control, you can throw Corruption on the understudies. That'll help. And then I guess if they pull Trash, you can see that too. Yeah, I mean, there's 2 axes up. Why not? Yeah, I would just seed here. Okay, as you approach 35, make sure you get your second tricks. Boss is at 40. With that other strategy, if he tanks it off to the side, you can throw like full dots on those because they're not going to die that quickly. You can throw Cursed Doom, Agony, and Unstable Affliction on one of them, and then Unstable Affliction, Corruption on another one, and then just keep full dots on Razuvious here. I mean, if they keep pulling Trash during this, you want to seed. I wouldn't even drain soul at this point. I would just keep seeding. But again, you don't want to seed on Razuvious because you're going to lose your Corruption, and that's no bueno. Okay, so once everything's dead, though, you're definitely just drain souling if the boss is this slow. How long did that take? That was a minute 30 fight. Yeah, so you don't lose too much. Oh, also for these little targets, you start doing insane damage. I would be ready. They literally get one shot, but you hit for like 100k or some shit. Or you're supposed to. It's not happening here, but I would just Searing Pain these little ads after the boss dies. These understudies start taking like 1000% extra damage or something. Okay, so as you move into, what is this, Gothik room? Tank hasn't picked everything up yet. I would Corruption that, and then I would seed the back ones. If he keeps moving like this, you just start corruptioning everything, but it looks like he's not moving, so I would just seed. Okay, so now he's moving. Just seed all this. Again, as you're moving, you should be using corruption to get closer to the boss, but still maintaining good damage. I would throw UA corruption on both of these knights, and if he's moving it like that, yeah, no, don't use agony on those. Maybe a haunt though. So haunt UA corruption on those two knights. You're not supposed to pull this pack, but if your group does, you're just gonna seed it. Okay, all that shit dies. This next fight's a joke, but there's a couple different ways that you can actually get some good damage in. I would not pre-pot here. This is Gothik the Harvester. Yeah, don't pre-pot. Don't use Infernal here. You can definitely use it on Razuvious because it'll 100% be up for 4 Horsemen, which is next. Generally, they might ask you to be pulling mobs here. You're just sitting in your pet and pulling them. But nothing too special here. Don't stand close to these mobs, though. They fucking rinse you if you stand like right at the gate. But yeah, just seed spam this. Boss is already engaged. The scripts on Classic for this boss are a little different though. Usually the ads come out substantially faster on private server. So for those mobs too, for those little mobs, you can just Searing Pain. There's no way that your corruption's even going to tick on them. Maybe Rain of Fire the door. But there's no way you can get a seed off on these little ones, on these trainees. I would just Rain of Fire the door. And then prioritize your targeting on these back ads. The elites that spawn. Yeah, you're not going to be able to seed any of that. Just Rain of Fire. If they spawn close to you, you can Hellfire. And that's actually better than Rain of Fire. Okay, I'm waiting for good mobs to spawn. There's mobs that spawn on this boss that actually have decent health. It's not those. I would just seed that. Okay, they pulled a Shade somehow. You just single target rotation this. You're not going to be able to get a UA off though. I would just corruption and then Shadow Bolt that. Oh man, I want to skip through this. I want the actual ads to show. But yeah, for this fight, 99% sure you're not even going to be able to get seeds off. You're probably just going to want to Rain of Fire or Hellfire or Searing Pain. All of those are much faster and will actually net you some damage instead of nothing. This is a big enough pack. You could seed this wave. What wave is this? He doesn't have DBM. You could have seeded that. Okay, they're just pulling trash from the next room. If they do this, you can actually get some seeds off. If they do this, if your group does this, rather. But yeah, let's skip through this a little bit. Because all these mobs have too little health. It's the riders. There we go. On these riders, you can actually seed the riders if there's enough targets around it, because you'll actually get a seed off. Okay, so let's skip to the boss. That's pretty much all you need to know about Gothik. You can probably try sending your pet through the door here. See if he'll go through the door. And then for this, I would just obviously you can't pre-pot, but you might want to haste pot earlier than 25, because it'll probably be up for the entire execute and a little more. And again, don't use your Infernal here. There's 4 Horsemen. It's going to be a lot better. Okay, like I said, this fight's a joke. You would get your PI, Blood Fury, and then Haste Pot. I would say to be safe, just Haste Pot at 25%. Because he might... Because what he just did there, he ported back at 35, and then that's wasted time on your Haste Pot. So I would just be safe and just Haste Pot at 25 here. Okay, for this next trash... My bad. For this next trash, just make sure you have full mana. You should have your pet out. Make sure your pet's buffed, all that good stuff. Okay, just see this. All of these trash packs are going to be clumped up, so there's no need to corruption them or anything like that. There's no need for the tanks to bundle them up, basically. Okay, so there's going to be one more trash pack. Sometimes there's a little more, just because there's patrols. At this point, you're just seeding. No, nothing else. Obviously, life tap before starting. Okay, so this is new strategy for 4 Horsemen. This strategy still works even if the health is buffed on all the bosses. What you would do is, let me pause the video real quick. Perfect timing. Okay, so you would put your demonic portal at my cursor here. Reason being, you're gonna tank, or all 3 of the horses are gonna be tanked here. And once these die, you can just teleport to that 4th horse. Okay, so let's look at 4 Horsemen. Oh yeah, and for the trash before 4 Horsemen, you can pre-pot. You could probably get a few pre-pots off at the beginning of them. But main thing is make sure you set up your demonic portal, and that you get your timing for your pre-pot here. I would pre-pot Wild Magic here. Let me go back a little bit. I would actually pre-pot Speed Pot. Yeah, I would pre-pot Haste Pot here. Because your Corruption snapshot doesn't really matter that much. This mob dies way too quickly. So you get full dots on this first horse, and then as the other 2 horses come in, you should be able to get a UA and Corruption on both of these. And then I would get my Infernal out. I would get my Flame Cap. And then just maintain your UA Corruption on these 2 targets. Recast Haunt on whatever horse you're going to kill next. The way that you keep up your Corruption on these 2 targets is just Shadow Bolting back and forth. But yeah, your Infernal. So your Infernal is not going to last the entire fight. It's just going to last during this AoE phase. But it's definitely worth it. Man, this group is not looking good. They are close. When you get too many of these debuffs, you can you get one shot. So they gotta hurry. Okay, they're fine. They just had to kill the fire guy. Okay, so you're draining. Any horse that gets into execute range has priority. This is where you would demonic teleport, and then you would immediately put up your dots here. Ideally, you get a Trix here. But this horse is going to die super quick, so... make sure your Infernal's actually attacking this boss, too. That dude's pet isn't even in there. Fucking guy. Alright, let's speed through this. So, that last horse, that's when I would use PI. Because you're going to have Lust for the first 3 horses. And I would use my second potion on those 3 horses if there's still 2 targets up. Otherwise, I would use my second haste pot there on that final horse. It just completely depends on your group's DPS. And if you're not doing that strategy where you have all the horses combined, there's no way you're gonna parse. Like, no way. Your DPS is gonna be way too freaking low. Let me skip through the running. Okay, so this is the last quarter. This is, what is it, Noth? Okay, so for Noth, and I'm gonna share this in, not description, but I'm gonna share this somewhere for people to get. These mobs die too quickly. I would just put corruption up on both of them, and then I would shadow bolt till they die. I wouldn't even try to drain. There's no way your drain's gonna tick on those. Just get corruption on both. For Noth, I would do pre-pot wild magic with tricks. I would blood fury on the pull. So yeah, you would just go ahead and blood fury after you get your dots up and you're casting shadow bolts. Okay, so they get the lust here. Throughout this fight, there's gonna be little ads that spawn. Here we go. So there's gonna be 3 ads. Once this happens, you don't lose dots on Noth, but you do see the other 3 targets there. But this is a super fast fight, so hopefully your second tricks isn't late or anything like that. You can also corruption them as they come in, and then so you could like corruption 2 of them as they come in, and then once they're completely grouped up, then you can seed on that 3rd target. Okay, so you get a bunch of seeds off there. You should definitely be top overall for this fight specifically. The burst on seed is really good, and stuff like demonic or stuff like immolation aura here isn't that crazy because all the ads are like separated. What else did I put? Oh, so you should be infernaling here at 50% boss health, because whenever you and again, this is only if it's up, because remember, if you go from 4 horsemen to this boss, it's not going to be like you're not going to be able to use infernal anyway. During this intermission, if you had used infernal, you can summon your fell hunter during this little trash phase. A lot of people also, they'll pull trash from, if you look at my cursor, they pull, not that cursor. They'll pull trash from other rooms. I would just seed them as they come in. Okay, so these mobs die pretty quick. You can definitely get a few seeds off here, though. Whenever there's mobs just about to die, you can shadow flame them at the end. Maybe hellfire. Okay, so let's skip through this. Okay, so boss is about to come back up. Boss is up. When the boss is literally 10% health, just get your haunt, corruption, and then drain. Don't worry about embrace. Don't worry about UA. Don't worry about agony. Just get a few drain soul ticks in, and then finish the fight with a shadow flame. Okay. Again, make sure your pet's up. You're not going to be able to pre-pot any of this trash. It's way too risky. Because you might stay in combat and pull the boss. And a lot of the times when it's called getting pot locked. Whenever you get pot locked, it's generally just because this raid is so easy that you know, just because you pulled early doesn't mean that you're gonna wipe the fucking pull and then go again. These guys super quick. I think I would hellfire. I would just hellfire there. For all that trash, I would just hellfire. I wouldn't even try to seed. They all have way too low health. They actually ass pull in this fight too. He's about to ass pull the boss, which is exactly why you don't pre-pot any of that trash. So this boss has a debuff. It's a spell casting debuff. You have to make sure that you're far enough away. You get that debuff, you're fucked. So Make sure you're completely max range. Okay. Also, I would watch your Fell Hunter's health on this fight. The way the mechanic should work is that it should be giving like your pet should be getting a debuff here, and it should be dying to it because it's not an AoE ability. And then the priest or whoever is supposed to dispel your pet. But if that doesn't happen, then your pet's gonna die. So I would watch. You might have to health funnel here, and it's really important that you keep your pet up. But yeah, for this boss, I would pre-pot Wild Magic again. I would get my tricks. Open with Shadow Bolt. You can Rocket Boot to the middle of the platform. And then cast your Corruption. Cast your Agony as you're Rocket Booting to the platform. Okay, so we hit 35. This is where... Let me scroll down for you. I don't think your Infernal is going to be up. But if it is, you use it at 33% on this boss. Okay, so right here, most groups lust here, but they actually lust on the pull here. Most groups lust here, and you get way more benefit as Affliction if they lust once everybody goes to the platform, because it's just drain phase. Okay, so nothing too special here. Use your second haste pot and execute here. Make sure you get your PI. I would use Blood Fury. I would actually use my Blood Fury for the pull. Once I'm situated in the middle, I would just use it for the pull. Okay, so let's get through this. Is there anything special with this trash? Oh, I would pre-pop my Shadow Ward here. So these mobs aren't grouped up enough, and you have to move with your group, so I would be corruptioning everything. I wouldn't seed everything. I wouldn't attack the Ice Stalkers because they slow you down. Once everything's like this, though, where everything's kind of... You can actually get some seeds off here. Just get seeds on the back ones, and they'll eventually blow up. But most groups play it like this, where they're all just constantly moving. You see that's slow? That's why you don't attack those Ice Stalkers. They'll kill you, too. And that's also why you pre-pop your Shadow Ward here. Okay, so they're killing ads. I would rain of fire these as they're coming in. Just because they're all damaged, and you might not be able to get seeds off. Okay, so next fight is Loatheb. Ideally, your group waits to get out of combat so you can pre-pot here. Pre-pot's not that important on this fight because you're going to pre-pot haste. Reason being is because you're going to recast your corruption after you get the Spore debuff. But I would still prefer to have a pre-pot. I don't think they waited. In a speedrun situation, I can understand, but... Yeah, so they didn't even get to pre-pot there. They still have maggots up. Okay. They also lusted on pull. You shouldn't lust on pull. You should lust once a bunch of people get the Spore debuff. So here specifically, you should be rocket booting to the first Spore that spawns, and you should really try your hardest to get the Spore debuff. As soon as you get the Spore debuff, then you ask for your tricks, and then you apply your corruption. Because that Spore debuff is going to be, I think it's 50% crit extra on your corruption, which is massive. And it lasts 2 minutes. So if you don't manage to get that first Spore, every single Spore, you need to be like right there trying to get it. And you're saving your cooldowns for the Spore, that Spore debuff. So you shouldn't Blood Fury on the pull here. You should keep your Blood Fury for... the Spore debuff. This fight is a little RNG though, because I've had where the Spore will die, and I'm literally right next to it, and there's nobody fucking near me, and it still won't give me the debuff. But just make sure that you're under the Spore when it dies. Okay, let's skip through. Let's get closer. Okay, so as you approach 35%, you're gonna need to make sure that you still have the Spore debuff. Reason being is that at 35%, you're gonna recast Corruption again. So you need a new Tricks, you need the Spore debuff, and it needs to be sub 35%, and then you recast the Corruption. Hopefully you get your second pot here. So your second pot's going to be used in Execute still. You're going to get PI there. That's where I would use my Blood Fury. If it's up again. Otherwise, you can use your Blood Fury at the beginning with the beginning of the Spore debuff while you have Tricks and stuff. But yeah, you're just draining here. If you lose Spore debuff during Execute, not that big of a deal because your Drain Soul cannot crit. So not a big deal. I wouldn't go crazy and try and get a new Spore debuff. I would just sit there and drain. Okay. So they killed this. They get the... I would try and do that for sure. Try and get a refresh on your Spore debuff right before you go to Sapphiron. Because that Spore debuff is still there. So everybody just about everybody here has Spore debuff right before they pull Saph. And you can, so you need new Tricks on this one. And you can Wild Magic with this. So this is actually huge. Okay. So definitely make sure to get your Tricks. Hopefully you have Thaddius buff. That'd be freaking awesome. So you need your Tricks here. I would pre-pot Wild Magic, like I said. And then for these, for the life drain, you can actually pre-pop Shadow Ward, like during the roleplay or whatever. And then this Blizzard, you don't need to move out of this Blizzard. This Blizzard does nothing. Like, you can watch their health in the raid. It doesn't even move. They're all just kind of standing in it. Look at Rugs. He's just standing in it. Doesn't even matter. So yeah, don't freak out. Don't move out of that. One thing to note, if you had the Spore debuff going into this boss and you applied your Corruption with the Tricks, you are not going to reapply Corruption at 35%. Reason being is that Spore debuff goes away. Like, that Spore debuff just went off. So you're not going to have it for 35%. Even, like, they did it basically as perfect as you could get. You're not going to have that Spore debuff for 35%. So for Sapphiron, if you do it in this order where it's Thaddius and then Sapphiron, you're not going to reapply Corruption at 35%. Okay, so again, at 35%, you are not applying Corruption if you have the Spore debuff. For Sapphiron specifically at 33%, so right now is when you would Infernal with your Flame Cap. And then your second potion is going to be Potion of Speed in Execute, which is coming up pretty soon. And you get your PI. You can Blood Fury on the pull, and then you should be able to Blood Fury again during Execute for this fight. This fight's long enough. Oh, that's another thing I needed to mention. Well, we'll actually see another one, I'm sure. Whenever there's an Ice Block phase, a lot of people lose their damage during that, and they don't realize it, or air phase or whatever. So what I do, I don't even move while the ice blocks are coming out. I just stand still, and then the only time I move is right before that explosion goes off, and I rocket boot to it. You don't need to freak out. You don't need to stop casting. There's no need to, don't life tap or whatever. Just be dotting, just like Rugs kind of did. Just that very last second, you need to be behind the pillar. Otherwise, it's damage loss. Okay, so Saph dies. What time are we at? 4:13. So let's see. If you Infernaled at 12:15, will it be up for KT? It doesn't look like it. so that's rough. It's actually super close. Because if you Infernal on Sapphiron, it's not going to be up for KT. And you really want it on KT. So I would actually, if your group is not, if your group is speed running and going as quick as they can, as fast as this group, I would not Infernal on Saph, no matter what. I would just Infernal on KT, because KT is going to have 5 targets. I would definitely just Infernal that portion of it, and it comes in Execute. So it's even better. And there's no other boss after this. Like, you guys are going to go to either Malygos or OS or whatever. Let's skip this little roleplay. Okay. So this is phase 1. I'm not going to play the whole phase 1. But for phase 1, there's going to be these little skeletons that spawn. These little skeletons have, like, no health. So I would just just 1 corruption on them. You might even have to Searing Pain, depending on what your group does. These A-bombs also don't have any health. I would corruption them and then just Shadow Bolt. What you're looking for are these things called Soul Weavers down in the back over here. And Rugs is trolling me, but those Soul Weavers you can actually put a full line of dots on. I would not use Agony on them. I would only use UA, Haunt, Corruption, and then start Shadow Bolting those Soul Weavers. But this whole phase works the exact same. One way that you can pad your damage is if your group decides to pull everything, and then in that case, you're literally just seeding everything. I wouldn't Infernal if they pull a bunch of mobs like that, though. Okay, let's start. Okay, so KT's about to start. Fuck. KT starts. Again, you're in combat, so you should not. What you call it? You get no pre-pot on this fight. Also, for phase 1, at the very beginning of phase 1, you should be able to Blood Fury and maybe even get PI, because it'll probably be up whenever KT comes out. What else did I want to tell you about KT? Oh yeah, you can interrupt KT with your spell lock too. A lot of warlocks don't do that. It's not a DPS increase, but yeah, KT's got a ton of health though. So you should be able to get multiple PIs on this fight. I would say 1 PI and multiple Blood Furies. I would say PI and Blood Fury at the beginning whenever KT spawns. And then oh, and multiple Flame Caps too. So Flame Cap is going to increase your Fell Hunter damage as well. So I would Flame Cap. I'd probably Flame Cap phase 1, like early phase 1, and just make sure that I still have my second Flame Cap for whenever I Infernal. Because on this fight, you're going to Infernal at 35, I believe. Maybe 25. Yeah, so Infernal at 25% here. These little mind controls that come out, if you scroll back a few seconds, these little mind controls, you can throw corruption on them and you'll get, you shouldn't kill your raid member, but you know, it's a DPS increase, so I don't think a single corruption will kill them. Obviously, if they have low health already, they're gonna you might actually kill them. As these guardians come out, I would be corruptioning them as they come out, and then once all 4 of them come out, then you can start seeding. As you can see, KT is about to hit 25%. And this is also where you use your Infernal with your Flame Cap. And yeah, the Guardians aren't going to die, but you're literally just padding. But that's what you're gonna have to do if you want really good damage in Nax. Just a little bit of pad. But yeah, I would just seed. I'd be seeding the shit out of this. I'd probably keep Haunt and Corruption on KT, but I would literally just seed between those abilities. Okay. You also ideally get your PI, your next PI in execute, sub 25%. And then you would also haste pot, sub 25. Okay, so they kill. Alright, so that's all of Nax. Let's move on to Malygos. Okay, so the way that this fight works is a little different. This is Malygos. This is actually an Eye of Eternity. The way that it actually works when it comes to pre-potting on this fight is... So it's whoever got the key off of Sapphiron needs to basically start the fight, and it's a casted thing in the middle of the platform. You'll see it a little bit later. But basically what you need to do is you need to be haste potting before he gets that cast off. So whoever is putting the key down needs to give you an accurate timer. It's usually 5-second cast. For this fight, there's a lot of different snapshotting mechanics that you're gonna want to know about beforehand, and for that reason too, you're gonna be opening with haste pot here, and you can also get power infusion on the pull because you're not going to use bloodlust on the pull. So you're gonna pre-pot haste, and I'm actually showing this point of view from my warlock because I couldn't find any beta footage, but you pre-pot haste, you get a little bit of benefit out of it, and then you get your PI here. It's actually pretty decent because it comes during your trinkets and stuff. Another thing before the fight starts, you're going to want to put your demonic portal in the middle. Reason being is that I'm 99% sure on classic that when she goes into, it's called the vortex, when she goes in the air for her vortex, you can port down and then just DPS the boss when everybody else is up there flying. But yeah, another thing is right before she goes up in the air, you can also get a drain life tick, maybe a searing pain as well. But what you're hoping for, what you're trying to do is basically wait out all of your cooldown usage and stuff for this spark that's going to come. So this spark lands on the floor and it gives you a 50% damage increase on your corruption, and it's snapshotable. So right at this point, as soon as that spark hits the floor and you see the sparkly stuff on the floor, you're going to cast corruption, and then it also stacks, so you're going to get 2 of them eventually throughout the fight, and then you recast corruption again right here, and then you also lust, and then you're really fucking pumping right now. Ideally, your rogue trickses you at this point, so you can snapshot all 3 of them. Usually, your damage in pre-raid Biss, your DPS is probably not going to be high enough to push her the first go around, but if she does, you just pump here. So you see the 3rd spark actually landed there. You could snapshot all 3, but the boss becomes untargetable very quickly, so it's not worth it. For this part, I just start seeding, and then I throw down my Infernal. Well, I fucking died on this right here. But you throw down your Infernal with Flame Cap here on those 4 targets. And then there's a bunch of flying targets up here. Now, what you need to do is stand in the Spore or the Spark debuff because it's still going to give you the damage increase. And you have to like mentally remember which ads still had the corruption on it that was empowered from this thing on the floor. On those ones, you want to keep your corruption up as long as you can, so it's good to throw an extra Shadow Bolt at those targets. But realistically, you're just going to be Unstable Affliction and then Corruption on all of these targets. And then you're supposed to stack in that little purple the little orb thing that spawns on the floor, but it's better to just tell your healers to just heal through it. You can even ask for stuff like pain suppression through it so that you can just keep casting instead of having to move. That's usually what I do. And then you get in a Drake, and this is, you literally, for this part, you literally just hit 1-1-2. That's it. Just 1-1-2. If you get targeted by the boss, who cares? Just 1-1-2. Just make your healers heal through it. It shouldn't one-shot you. It does on this server, so I might use my shield here. But for Classic, you literally just 1-1-2. 1-1-2. 1-1-2. Reason being is that the all of your damage comes from, you see those stacks on the boss if you look at my cursor. All of your damage is coming from the stacks. So you really need to be stacking it up super high. And I think it will affect your overall damage, the Drake phase. So it's important that you just 1-1-2 and you don't waste your stuff on shielding. You don't lose your stacks or anything like that. But this fight's pretty easy once it's like into phase 3. All of the difficult stuff is in phase 1 and 2, just doing the snapshotting correctly and whatnot. But yeah, that is Nax and Mally, every single boss. Exactly how I would do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, this was a video request of Sam. So if you guys have video requests, feel free to DM me on Discord. You know, I'm not adverse to taking money for a video, only if I think it'll be usable by my audience. I'm not just gonna fucking put up random crap. But I think a lot of people can get something from this. I think that, like I said, even if you're not gonna watch every single boss to see exactly how to perfectly parse every single boss, I think that you can get something out of, especially stuff like Thaddius, 4 Horsemen, maybe even Patchwerk and stuff. But yeah, that's everything. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna have, again, my macros, weak wars, keybinds, all that stuff's in the description. It's in my Discord. And I'm going to put this with all the notes somewhere. I don't know exactly where I'll put it, but yeah, it'll be available. But yeah, thanks, and have a good one.